Good morning again. I have the good, the bad, and the ugly playing for a minute because I really like that movie. Clint Eastwood made a good film with the film uh The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He was really good in that film. But also another character that was stood out to me was Angel Eyes. He was portrayed as a vicious killer, and we don't know much about him other than that he was pretty vicious. um, and so he actually, but he did really good. He almost got the gold. Of course, he was going to have to dig up the whole cemetery to find it. But uh, you know, I just wanted to mention that film because it's one of my favorites, and I always try to watch it every now and then. When I was in university, I took a class called Images of the American West, and we studied some of those films, the Westerns. And, I got a deeper appreciation for each scene and, like how the details and all of that goes into making a Western, or what did go into making a Western during the time of John Wayne. Yeah, that's right. This streamer loves John Wayne and admires his manly approach to things, even though it's not popular nowadays. He was a good man, and no one is perfect, but he was a good man, just like Trump, really. And God blessed him. And all of his films are really good, I think. I remember watching some on the Turner Classic Movie Channel, and I never saw him again. Netflix and all the streaming services net will never show you the John Waynes because Netflix is based on a lie. The Obamas run it. The 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 chief father of lies is the head of Netflix. And so it's pretty interesting to understand how America is, being invaded uh by Islam, but it makes sense because we had Obama as president. I feel like the Europeans were forced to let those people in because and when they did, there was a there's been a bunch of rapes and crime, and like they tried everything to make sure that these people assimilate, but they're not assimilating. They're invaders in Europe. And that same thing is coming to America. I have no problem if they want to, in their own country, have Sharia law or Islam or whatever. That's fine with me, as long as it stays in their country. When they come here, they need to become Americans, you know, and put the past behind them. They're in a free land, and they need to embrace that and do away with their slavish mentalities and worshiping Allah. America is the future. And the thing I like to point out is their God is dead and ours is alive. So, because ours rose from the dead, see, and he sits at the right hand of the Father. And one day he's going to return and rule for 1,000 years. It will be beautiful. But we can only say this in America. So you can't talk like this in other countries because you get beheaded. And uh, something I've talked about is the persecuted. There are two churches. There's the persecuted church on one hand that loves God and their neighbor, but when they open a Bible, they understand it might be the last thing they do. And then you have the lukewarm Church of North America that could not be bothered by the persecuted church. I have gone into Christian group after Christian group and been accused of being political when I mentioned the persecution of Christians. And yet, Pocahontas in her Discord allows me to share a little bit, just a little bit about the persecuted church. It's not, I can't, she accused me of spamming, so I had to kind of chill it out. But, like I still let people know about I'm still able to let some people know about the persecuted church and how, people that practice their faith in Jesus suffer the consequences. They're, before I went to Washington, I had a map of all the countries where it's illegal to own a Bible or where the faith is restricted. And you would not believe that the vast majority of countries are opposed to the message of salvation for some reason. You know, like I remember people had Grimm's fairy tales with them, but in some countries you can't have a Bible with you, you know? So Grimm's fairy tales is acceptable for some reason, but the Bible is not, even though they call it a book of fairy tales. Yeah. And then they're trying to, uh, the government is the government is trying to release the information about aliens through the church. See, because they want to undermine people's beliefs in Jesus even further, because they want to claim that aliens invented Jesus, and that we're a construct, that he's a construct of the aliens. But like Glenn Beck said, get thee behind me, Satan, you know? And when you say that, he will get behind you because that comes from Jesus. Yeah. And but anyways, banning, like I said in my short, if you watched it, banning Sharia law, whatever the heck that is not the answer. We need to ban Islam. The practice of Islam is an ideology and not truly a religion. If it were a religion, it would follow Jesus, but it doesn't follow Jesus. They call Jesus a good prophet, a good man, but they persecute his followers. So they show that by their fruits they are known, by their violence towards the Christians is proof that they do not really believe in Jesus, even though they may claim to have some affinity for him. Uh, I do think that God is not going to forget, Ishmael, because, uh, for example, God has blessed the Arabs with oil and Iran with gas, and these countries are. Uh, it's said that the supply of oil will never run out. Like Texas has a lot of oil, but they think it's going to run out. So that means that it's not a limitless supply. But then you know, the oil is so important because our cars use oil, our trucks use oil, our motorcycles use oil, our planes use oil. You know, you need oil. Um, there's a parable in the Bible about the 10 virgins needing oil for their lamps, and there were 5 virgins that went out and they got extra oil. And so when the bridegroom came, then guess what? They had extra oil, but they didn't give their oil to the virgins who didn't have extra oil. So, you know, and it's very interesting because I'm trying to discuss the truth here because, you know, there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of live streams where they don't discuss the truth. They discuss this world. This world is their home, and what goes on in this world is important. I am not going to vote. once Trump is out of office because I do not believe in that. I believe that God. I I helped give Trump by voting for him, and now God, it's his show. Like whoever he wants in there is who he wants in there now, I think. And people tell me I can't complain, but like I put 13 years into the United States Navy. If I want to make a complaint, I'm going to make a complaint. I did my time, and now I'm going to speak up, but I'm not going to vote because of the SAVE Act. I believe the SAVE Act is Jim Crow for white people, and it is a further attack on our ability to confront Islam. See how they're trying to silence us so that we cannot, so that we only have one option with Islam, and that is to wipe everybody out that practices Islam. I'm not advocating violence. I'm saying this is what Congress is trying to do. They want a revolution or a civil war. See how they're trying to instigate a civil war by passing the SAVE Act, which is Jim Crow, basically, for white people. It's the same thing. You won't. They're going to have to come up with a new way to identify us because the illegals already have driver's license. I go to 7-Eleven and see them lined up, ready to buy beer. Like it's annoying because they're in. I'm just trying to buy cigarettes, and they're all in a line, ready to buy beer. And so and nothing's stopping them. So they have ID. You have to present ID in Texas to buy alcohol. And so these people can vote in Texas. These people can vote in Illinois or in Chicago or in Virginia or California. And it's so infuriating because I served my country for 13 years and watched these people come in and they get paid by our government to take it easy while grandma can barely put food on her table. I mean, she's only feeding one person and they're feeding a dozen because they come in with four wives. And of course, you can multiply the children by that. I mean, good grief. And that's another thing. Why isn't polygamy legal? Like why can only the Muslims marry more than one wife? Why can't the rest of us marry more than one wife? See how there's a lot of hypocrisy with Islam. I'm not advocating polygamy. I'm just saying, asking the question. If they can do it, why can't I? You know, I think that we need to have a time of reflection on America and what it stands for, and that time is coming on May 17, 2026, when Trump will rededicate this nation to God. And the liberals are going, the left is going to freak out because they are opposed to God. The left hates three things: they hate Trump, they hate America, they hate McDonald's, and the fourth thing they hate is Jesus. That's because all those things are positive and uplifting and encouraging, and you know they like McDonald's has the Ronald McDonald House. I don't even know what they do, but they're a charity. So I enjoy frequenting McDonald's because I know my money is going to go help somebody. It's not going to just go to Ronald McDonald and his wallet. Somebody is going to benefit from it. I don't know who or how. I just know that they are benefiting from it. And it's not blind faith because I can round up, and occasionally I have rounded up so that I could help the Ronald McDonald House. But today it was my dad who got my breakfast for me. He's so sick. He did not want me to ride in the car with him. So I don't know. I don't know. I might come down with it. I might come down with it. I might get the sniffles again or something. Of course, uh, something I did today was I live streamed earlier, and then my dad called me for breakfast. But I was supposed to get pancakes, but ended up getting a sausage biscuit instead. But I got hash browns, so that made up for it. I'm not a fan of the sausage biscuit because I grew up in Seattle, and the biscuit is just too dry for me. And I'm not a Southerner by I was born in Texas, but I am not a Southerner at all. So the biscuit is not my favorite, but I ate it and it was good. Like I was surprised. Every time I have one, I enjoy it. It's just, I have to get into it before I start enjoying it, but it's still dry for me, you know. And here's the thing is that you know, we need they're going to try to ban restaurants, and they want dog-free zones for the Muslims, and they want Muslim-only areas, and they're building Epic City in Texas, which is a Muslim-only city, and so it's going to be a no-go zone. See, not yet, but once they get it situated and everything, you watch, they'll turn it into a no-go zone, and you know, Islam is they still practice slavery in some Muslim countries, like so that's why I don't think we should worry about Sharia law because I don't even know what that is. What is Sharia law? I mean, they can just make up whatever Sharia law is, and we ban it, and then, well, the Supreme Court says no, you can't do that, and boom, the United States Constitution is voided. Slavery is legal again, you know? That's why I think that we need to ban Islam and not Sharia law. Otherwise, we'll end up with slavery again. Because when you throw Jesus out, you throw out brotherly love and our liberty and everything else that comes with Jesus. And that means you have slavery. Brotherly love is what caused America to ban slavery, and it forced other nations to ban slavery as well because they had to trade with America. So they couldn't have slavery. Americans don't like slavery. And so Americans generally will not like Islam. But I saw a PowerPoint at church where Islam is the fastest growing religion in America. So there are Americans converting. Like it's not just a Middle Easterner ranting and raving now. There are American citizens and Americans who wake up and they pray 5 times a day to Allah. Like they've fallen for the lie, you know, the deception. And here's the thing is that we are working to with Trump to make America great again, and a part of that I think is we're going to have to deal with Islam because, but we can't, but we don't want violence. We want to ban Islam so that we can peacefully disperse the Muslims from our country without violence. You know, because violence is what they're hoping for. That's what they want. That's what Congress wants. Is they want a revolution because they hate our country, and that's why they want the Save Act. See, it's all connected. You know, our government, for the most part, is the same bird, just two different wings of the same bird, and that so that like if one side doesn't get it, the other side will. And right now we have the Republicans trying to pass the Save Act. And what is that going to do? It's going to force us to get some new form of identification. See, the mark of the beast comes into play here, I think, you know, forcing you to do something. Congress is trying to force us to identify ourselves. Why do we have to identify ourselves? What about the illegal aliens? Why don't they have to identify themselves? Is it so they can hide? Ask yourself that because in the end, America is in danger as long as these people are here and we need to deport them. They're illegal and they're a threat. They'll take your social security. You don't think they will, but here's the thing is that it's, you have a 24-year-old illegal at home playing on their PS5 while 80-year-old grandma is busy working construction so that she can pay her bills. That's the vision that they have for America in Congress. And it's not for no reason. It's because they want a revolution. They've wanted they've wanted Islam to the government is just a tool. They don't have any respect for Islam and its beliefs. But they need Islam as a tool and an ally. And that's why they're working together with them and criticizing people for Islamophobia. Like Facebook originally wouldn't even show me how to spell that. So it's a made up word. But nevertheless, Islamophobia is a big deal in Texas. And people are getting worked up because they know that Islam is growing in power and our state government had no authority to stop them. Yeah, a federal judge made it so that Epic City will now be a part of Texas. And I'm not fooled. I don't think for 1 minute that Mexico will allow Islam to rise on its northern border. Not for a second. And when they come in, they will show no mercy. And I bet you they will build a wall. No doubt about it. So if you want Texas, you need to counter Islam and you need to ban Islam because banning Sharia won't work. It'll just, it'll just you run the risk of the Constitution being voided when the Supreme Court rules against it, which happened with this basically happened when they made gay marriage legal at the Supreme Court. Like every state had a ban on it, and then boom, one ruling by the Supreme Court, and the Constitution was voided. I'm not, like what a person does in their own personal life, I don't really care. But, like for the government to have a say like that is to me uh not right. You know, the government should not be telling you who you can and can't marry. But here's the thing is that when the state recognizes gay marriage and stuff like that, well, gay marriage isn't marriage. I hate to break it to you. And God is watching over us and we need to keep that in mind because he finds certain things to be abhorrent. Anyways, enough of that. I really think they are, you know, this revolution is going to happen, no doubt about it. And there's going to be a civil war, but I think the civil war is not really for change. The purpose is to disarm Americans. And then, of course, once we're disarmed, our enslavement begins. So be wise. Don't be getting involved in civil wars. This is not a good idea because you'll just get disarmed. That's the whole purpose of it. Just like how they had January 6th, where they basically were going to crucify Trump, and then it backfired on them. The truth came out, and Americans were like, "Hey, you jailed innocent people." And the January 6th commission was uh, quickly disbanded. And it's like they don't want to talk about it. But Americans are still talking about it because they were the ones that said this was the next 9/11, basically. That's what Pelosi said. Anyways, I just want to give a shout out to that girl who does the WordPress advertisements. Man, she is beautiful and she has a lovely voice too. You know, like I wish I could meet her. I think we could get along. I like the way she looks into the screen even. That just makes my heart flutter a little bit. What do you think, ma'am? Do you think we could do it? All right. Maybe not. I know you're probably busy. Anyways, I just you know, have a lot of things going on, and I got one like, so I'm happy about that. Somebody watched my live stream for a little bit, you know, and I don't normally wear a hat, but I wear a Make America Great Again hat, and I'm planning to buy another hat. I want to buy one of the red ones because I found out that Pocahontas has several Make America Great Again hats, and I only have one. So I need to catch up. I'm being outdone by Pocahontas right now. That's not that's not funny. I I'm not trying to like uh I I hate evil, and that's one of the things that our government is evil. I believe our government is evil. They allow abortion, and so they're evil. Like they worship Moloch. They don't worship Jesus. There are Christians inside Congress and inside the government, but you know, like the government itself, aside from Trump, worships just like I care about life. I care about life because the Bible says that murder is and taking and killing someone else who has the image of God is a sin. And so, I don't want to uh I don't want my tax money going to that. And I found out that our tax money is going to Planned Parenthood. Like, get the F out of here. I don't normally cuss, but I have to. But I'm trying to emphasize that, I'm being treated like a simpleton, where my money is going to something I don't support. And a lot of Americans don't support it. Why is our money going to this? And another thing that our government does is it enforces abortion in other countries. Japan originally didn't have abortion until 1994. Did you know that? Yeah, but the United States government, see, Bill Clinton forced them to allow abortion. So I was told at the time that in Japan, they just don't talk about abortion, but it's legal because of America, because of Bill Clinton, pretty much. This evil practice of abortion is going to be going to haunt us because, like, abortion has never been illegal in my lifetime. So life is precious, and abortion should be illegal. But the Republicans haven't even tried to do anything about it. Like Roe versus Wade was overturned. I was told this would end abortion. It's not ending abortion. Abortion is increasing. See how people think that abortion has to do with convenience, but abortion really has to do with the worship of Moloch, some god mentioned in the Old Testament, where human sacrifice was a part of worshiping him. And but yeah, there might be some benefit from it, but the benefit you get from the Lord Jesus is much more powerful because Moloch is dead and Jesus is alive, you know? And so I have to share these things because my mom, I'm not sure where she stands on this issue of life and pro-life and pro-abortion. Pro-abortion, I think, is a little strong because she voted for Reagan, so I think she might be pro-choice. But she warned me away from going with the pro-life. But I have to be pro-life because I was born prematurely, and my mom could have aborted me, and she didn't. She chose to give me life, And so I think other people who deserve life as well, and not just me, life is worth protecting. And the Bible says that children are a blessing from God. So we need to treat them that way. And by aborting them, we're avoiding that statement in the Bible. Well, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sign off because I don't see anyone else coming in, but I'll live stream again later. You have a nice day. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette.